Topics for this screencast are post-Stonewall, primarily from the 1980s and beyond. We're going to first take a look at AIDS. So a couple of things. For the most part, this is just going to be informational. So here we see the Florida courts deciding that tuberculosis is considered an infection and is protected by the law. So an infection, in this case, is protected by the law, and the case here is involving tuberculosis. Okay, so that means that you would be protected under the American with Disability Acts, which is going to protect from discrimination. Here we see insurance companies not paying fully for AIDS-related treatment. So here we have two patients, both covered by the same insurance company. Let's say in this case, the insurance company has put out $10,000 for their medical needs, and the individual with AIDS has cost $100,000. So this individual is viewed as a liability by the insurance company. To make matters worse, they're probably looking at homosexuality and saying that the person is making a choice. It is not that they're homosexual from birth. Keep in mind that is the view. It's not my personal view. It's just, where this is eventually going to end up. So the question here is, why should the insurance company have to pay this amount of money if this individual has made a choice to be a homosexual, and the homosexual act probably is what wound up getting the individual AIDS. So let's move on. Does the insurance company failure to pay fully for AIDS-related treatment violate the ADA? Okay. Case law is inconsistent. As late as 2000, some insurance companies still have disease-specific caps. So we have let's say three medical conditions. Medical condition 1, 2, and 3. Maybe in this case, they are only paying, they cap it at 80,000. You can only get 80,000 worth of treatment. Here you will only pay 100,000 of treatment, and let's just say over here we're going to cap it at 40,000. So again, you could easily see how the society views the medical condition is going to have a lot to say, and since they're looking at homosexuality as a choice that people are making, and they are engaging in sexual acts, that is what is most likely going to get them to contract the AIDS virus. Why should they have to pay? So they probably want to also cap the amount of money that the insurance company is devoting for this particular condition. I'm not saying that it's fair or anything. I believe it's just, where the history is. So this case involves Sydney Abbott. And so in this case, the dentist is suggesting that she should get her treatment at a hospital because she has admitted that she has contracted the AIDS virus. So this individual is in the dentist chair, and the dentist is arguing, I don't really want to take care of you because you have AIDS, so you need to kind of move on and go to a hospital. I don't want to treat you. So that's the doctor, is the doctor discriminating? That seems to be the question here. So let's look at some of the information. HIV is considered an impairment from the moment you are infected. So there's some sort of impairment that begins once you are infected. Okay. It limits a major life activity. Okay, so you have to limit a major life activity. So is reproduction going to count? So if a man and a man engage in a sexual act, they're not going to reproduce. So that seems to be yet another issue. Okay. HIV and AIDS would be considered a disability if it interferes with reproduction. Okay, so now we need to make this connection. It seems to make some sense here. So what they're trying to argue is that you have to have a major life activity limited in order to be classified under the ADA. And in this case, it looks like the gay rights activists are arguing that it's about reproduction. However, can two men reproduce a child? And the answer is going to be no. Is that still discrimination? In the case, HIV person poses significant risk of infection of their partners when trying to conceive. HIV persons. So now if we're talking about a man with a woman, let's just say the man in question has HIV, that means he can infect her. So why would that work for heterosexuals and not homosexuals? Or do you have to treat them both the same? I'm just kind of getting you to think about these questions as I kind of work through them. Also found there was a risk to the fetus of the unborn child. So the end result is that they're trying to argue here that AIDS becomes a disability and it threatens reproduction. That seems to be the life-altering, issue here, which means you would be covered under the ADA, which is where they're going with this. Which would then lead to less discrimination. So that's it for the AIDS situation. Let's move on to the military. Some of this information we already have some understanding about: the blue discharge, the Crittenden report. So not much new here other than the don't ask, don't tell policy, which is more of the 1990s. For the most part in class, we've been looking at the 1950s going into the 1970s. But don't ask, don't tell simply works well. You are not allowed to ask somebody. Your superior can't ask if you're a homosexual. And as long as you don't say anything about it, you would be okay. And make sure you don't have any photographs or you are not hanging out at any gay rights protests arguing gay rights in your military uniform, because that is definitely going to be problematic. So, again, sexual perversion, Executive Order 10450, and the don't ask, don't tell policy. Let's move on to employment. So the question here is about public and private employment. So unless forbidden by a state, an employer can discriminate based on sexual orientation. According to the government legislation, here once again we're using the Executive Order 10450, which we have addressed in prior classes. So let's take this one here. So we know that homosexuals were viewed as having mental disorders, and that was by the Psychiatric Association. So if you were applying for a job and I decided I was not going to hire you, I could easily say no because you are a homosexual. However, I don't really have a problem with you being homosexual. It's because I do not think that you are capable of doing the job because you have a mental disorder. And how do I know that? Because the Psychiatric Association says so. So this is going to act as a way to legally discriminate using coded language. We know with the mental disorder that is going to allow you to discriminate in the United States against individuals who are openly gay. Here we have an employee by NASA. Keep in mind, if you're working for the federal government, anything connected with the federal government, that is definitely going to be problematic. This individual is being fired from his job for immoral, indecent, and disgraceful conduct. Notice how they're not saying that this individual is gay or homosexual. They're saying that they're engaging in these behaviors. Can public employees fire you for being gay? That seems to be worded off. Government failed to show a specific connection between employees' potentially embarrassing conduct and any reduction in the efficiency of the department. So that seems to be the issue here, and that was the significance of having that gray area type language. Do we want to be in the area of the laws identifying which specific behaviors, or do we have this gray area which allows for a lot of loopholes? Here we see the Dallas Police Department refusing to hire an openly gay man. And the argument here for the police officer, yes, upheld the right of the Dallas Police Department, so you can get rid of the individual. The court believed there were legitimate doubts that a homosexual could develop the trust and respect of the other personnel. So that's an interesting argument. So here they're saying, the police officers working in a teams of two. This is the open homosexual. So this individual who is the heterosexual officer partnered with this individual, they're arguing you would not be able to partner people up because this individual, we don't necessarily know if they would ever be able to establish this particular trust and respect. So again, it's coded language that is being used to discriminate. Let's move on to marriage. So here we're looking at DOMA, passed in 96. They're trying to define marriage as a union between one woman and one man, and allowing the states to deny recognition for same sex. So this is playing off like the Federalist, Anti-Federalist. The federal government doesn't want to come straight out and say, yes, gay marriage is allowed or not. So they're going to pass it off to the states, which is why you're going to have so many states with different laws regarding what actually counts as marriage. So why is this significant? This slide just lists some of the benefits of being married, and maybe they're just some of the things that you are not thinking about. What about inheriting your spouse's estate? So here we have a heterosexual couple that's engaged in a marriage, and one of the individuals has passed away. This individual right here. We know that the woman is in a position to inherit the spouse's estate. We know that employment benefits can also be, obtained depending on the situation, depending on the age. Filing of joint income taxes. So a man-man couple not being able to get married is not able to file a joint income tax, which means that there could be some tax benefits to filing jointly. Bereavement. Let's just say you have this couple here and they're not allowed to get married, whereas over here they are married. Let's say they both work in the same place. If this individual's family member passes away, they both are allowed to take the day off for bereavement, whereas over here, since they're not allowed to get married, that is not going to happen. Only the one impacted by the death would be in a position to take a bereavement day. So really the issue here with regard to gay marriage is whether or not marriage allows benefits for heterosexual couples as opposed to homosexual couples. And that seems to be the issue that DOMA is trying to really address. We see some of the arguments for it, and I do know that there was an attempt to create a constitutional amendment that clearly defined marriage. Either way, we're a same-sex marriage, and this map is back from 2012. It shows down here. So it'd be interesting to see where this map has been updated. But for the most part, with regard to marriage, seems to be another issue, which was the whole point of this entire screencast, to look at these issues post-Stonewall, just to give you some basic information about it.